Welcome back to the Friday Show, presented this week by the Maryland Jockey Club. Coming up next weekend, March 14th, that's 3-1-4, it's Pie Day at Laurel Park. We'll tell you more about that coming up. Plus, we'll talk about the 3 Kentucky Derby preps this weekend. First, Ray, most people around the world are talking about one thing, and that is the coronavirus. And Natalie Voss did a story this week for us about how racing industry officials are looking at this, the auction houses, the racetracks in terms of events and crowds. What's your sense of where the industry is in terms of the impact of the coronavirus?
Well, she spoke to the sales company like Keeneland, and this came up in an analyst phone call with Bill Carstangian, the CEO of Churchill Downs, when they were reviewing their financial report from 2019. It's the responsible thing to do for any organization in racing or outside of racing. What contingency plans are we going to make in the event that this gets worse? I am a little surprised internationally that organizations like the Japan Racing Association started conducting races without any fans being allowed to attend. So it's made these cavernous racetracks in Japan television studios, pretty much. They canceled racing in Korea. Earlier this week, in the United Arab Emirates, they announced that they would be conducting races with no attendance. And in the UAE, one of the government officials actually contracted coronavirus and is hospitalized right now. So it's a serious thing, but to cancel all things where crowds gather is a huge game-changing kind of decision.
And I think a perfect example is the Cheltenham Festival is next week. 250,000 people will be there. Well, historically, that's been the crowd. But the health secretary has said, no, there is not a need to cancel this event right now. We are not at that point. We need to monitor things. We need to keep, cautious. Wash your hands, for Pete's sakes, 20 seconds under soap and water. But he was saying, we're not there yet where we need to be canceling major events. And for most people, this virus lasts a couple of days and then it goes away. There's a speedy recovery, but there are people who are more susceptible with immune problems, the elderly, etc., and we don't know who they come into contact with, so you have to be prepared and cautious. You don't have to panic, though. We've seen these things before where they've come from other countries and then there's a period where it spreads. Usually it comes under control. This one doesn't look much different to those previous ones to me so far. So right now, industry leaders are taking the right approach. Wait and see. Let's make plans. Let's prepare in case things do go to the worst case scenario. But panic doesn't really help anyone.
Yeah, the airlines their business is already suffering from people who cancel travel plans. I don't like to fly anyways, but I'm hearing that people are getting on airplanes and wiping down the seats and armrests and tray tables and everything. So I kind of have a phobia about flying. So this actually helps me because when I get on an airplane, I'll feel like, oh, this is nice and clean.
Well, wasn't there a congressman that was wearing a gas mask? This is the point I was trying to make about the panic, the fear-driven thinking that often happens. It's kind of human nature. Hysteria takes over. But I think it's good to see level-headed people like the British racing or the health secretary saying, let's calm down right now. We are on top of this. But as long as you take basic precautions like washing your hands, the Cheltenham Festival and other big events like that can go on.
That's right. And we've got a poll question with this that has to do with whether or not this coronavirus at this point has caused you to reconsider or change travel plans.
Share your thoughts at PaulickReport.com. Well, let's move on and talk about this weekend's 3 Kentucky Derby preps, all worth 50 points. A lot of top contenders from coast to coast are doing battle in these 3 races. Ray, I feel like last year at this time we were scratching our heads a little bit, not really having a great grasp on the 3-year-old crop because there were so many different winners from the races, a lot of long shots. I feel like this year's group is a little more formful. And this weekend kind of is the point where we really might start to get a grasp on who are the top contenders.
Yeah, we've already seen the horse I think was the best 2-year-old, Tis the Law, come back with a good win. This round 2, the second, the more important Derby preps, will be interesting to see if these horses that, like the Baffert crew, that have been so strong so far, can repeat those performances as the Derby points get higher.
Let's start with the Gotham Stakes. Pretty big field here. I think one of the more interesting horses is Mischievous Alex. His name is unintentionally misspelled, but his connections are from a Fleet Alex, one of the more popular horses in recent memory that competed and won some Triple Crown races. And of course, we also have Tiz the Law's connections being the same as Funny Side, another very popular horse. So to me, it's fun that these connections are back on the Derby trail. That's one of the stories, because Mischievous Alex is one of the favorites in the Gotham.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to take another horse in the Gotham. The Gotham really hasn't been a key race for the Kentucky Derby or Triple Crown races in recent years, but Untitled was defeated by Mischievous Alex in the Swale Stakes at Gulfstream Park. He got ping-ponged at the start. I've never seen that on a running line of a horse before, but it says ping-pong, so I went back and looked at it, and he got slaughtered at the start. And I think you can kind of throw that race out. Untitled came back for Mark Casse to run a good second at Tampa around 2 turns, finishing behind Gouverneur Morris, a horse that Team Valor thinks is Kentucky Derby contender type of horse. And switching back to 1 turn, I think that's going to be in the best interest for Untitled. So I look for him to beat Mischievous Alex.
Well, let's move on to the Tampa Bay Derby. Again, a pretty big field, and it's deep. I mean, really, Todd Pletcher has some horses. I think he has 3.
He's got 3, yeah.
Todd Pletcher so far hasn't stood out like he usually does on the Derby trail, but this is the time when he starts getting rolling. So this could be the race where he has a breakout horse. But I'm most interested to see Sol Volante run for Patrick Biancone, because I loved his last race, and I just love his pedigree. I love his running style for the Derby. I like the fact that he has turf in his pedigree. So I'm a big fan of what I've seen from him so far. We'll see. Can he do it again? That, to me, is the biggest story here.
Yeah, I thought Sol Volante got the perfect setup when he won the Sam F. Davis, so I'm going to throw him out of here. Pletcher has owned this race. I think he's won it maybe 5 times in recent years. I don't know which of his 3 is the strongest, frankly. I think all 3 of them have a good shot. And then Karen McLaughlin has Spa City in here, who got a 91 buyer, defeating one of the Pletcher horses in so doing. Unrighteous, who's still a maiden for Pletcher, putting blinkers on, getting Joe Bravo. So I think the 3 Pletcher horses are the ones to beat, and I'm just not going to say which one I think is best.
Well, let's not forget about Chance It, who scratched out of the Fountain of Youth last weekend because of the 12 post. Ironically, though, the 11 post won that race with AT Indian, also trained by Patrick Biancone. So interesting to see Chance It again, whether that was a good decision or not. But again, I think this is a deep field, and we'll see whether it's going to be a Pletcher, that Biancone horse, McLaughlin. A lot of betting interests there in that race. And then finally, on the West Coast, we have the San Felipe. The storyline here is we get Storm the Court again, last year's juvenile champ. But probably the bigger story is Baffert has 2 undefeated horses that are going to be facing each other. 1,000 Words, who's won all 3 of his races, although most of them have been close. And then Authentic, who's been green, but looks like he might have more upside.
Yeah, you've got those 3. Storm the Court had a prep in the San Vicente sprinting, so he should be better this time around. I think Authentic is the best of Baffert's 45 3-year-olds that are contenders for the Derby. No, actually, I think we counted. He's actually got 6 legitimate Kentucky Derby starters. The horse that I'm really interested to see here is Honor AP. When he debuted last summer at Del Mar, he made a huge move to be second in a sprint. Didn't look like he wanted to sprint. So next time out, he went 2 turns under Mike Smith for John Sheriffs, and he won very convincingly, got a high buyer speed figure in that race, I think a 91. And this is his first start since then. He may need a race, but I think Honor AP is one to watch for sure.
All right, so next weekend, March 14th, 3-1-4, it's Pie Day. celebrated around the world, the mathematical equation, and Laurel Park and the Maryland Jockey Club are having fun with it, having a big day of racing around Pi Day. 4 good stakes races.
Yeah, very good stakes races. But the one question I have, I know Pi is spelled P-I, but will they have any P-I-E?
Oh, yeah, they got to have.
On the day. You got to have, I don't know, what's your favorite pie? I've always been kind of a pumpkin pie person.
I like rhubarb pie.
Rhubarb pie?
Yeah.
Well, not too big on rhubarb. But anyways, yeah, four good stakes races. We got the private terms, the Nellie Morris, the Harrison E. Johnson Memorial, and Beyond the Wire. Past the Wire? Which one is
Beyond the Wire.
Beyond the Wire. I had it right the first time. And, it's a big day of racing. And bet the 3-1-4 all day long.
And those races combined purses more than $400,000. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by the Maryland Jockey Club. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.